Hi, welcome to Chapter 2, Nutrition Tools, Standards, and Guidelines. Dietary Guidelines for Americans by Professor Tammy. Learning Objectives 1. Define the role of dietary guidelines as part of an overall U.S. dietary guidance system. Dietary Guidelines for Americans. Food-based strategies for achieving the dietary reference intakes, DRI values. This is to promote health. Right now, the current U.S. diet, it's important that nutrients are undersupplied, just like people are not having enough fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. And less healthful nutrients are oversupplied, just like saturated fat and sugar and salt. Physical activity is important to maintain healthy body weight. So right now we have a 2015 through 2020 dietary guidelines. Right now we have a impending 2020 through 2025 guidelines. It's still in the works. It should be coming out soon. And this is evidence-based. It translates nutrient recommendation, the DRI, into food recommendations. This is being reviewed and revised every 5 years. Why every 5 years? Why can't they just have a set one? Well, you know what? What we eat changes, and how we behave toward food and also changes. So what might be important 5 years ago may not be as important now. Maybe physical activity is lacking during the pandemic versus there was more physical activity then. Maybe children are eating more candy at home than they did when they were not at home. So maybe sugar levels are going up. So these are the things you want to think about. That's why things change, because the behavior of people also change. So it's reviewed and revised every 5 years. I want you to go to page 38, go to table 2-1, Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2015 to 2020. On the left-hand side, you see a chart. If you look at the red line here, where the 100 is, that's where we want people to be as close as possible to consume each food group. So if you notice, grains and proteins tend to be above 100%. And if you look at grains, it says whole grains account for 10% of grain servings. So most people are not really consuming whole grain foods. And if you look at that line again, there's 3 food groups, the vegetables, fruits, and milk, that tend to not be consumed as often as they're recommended for. On the right-hand side, you see this beautiful display of drinks. Think before you drink. Someone put together the amount of sugar that's in each drink. So if you look at the first one, it says 0. That's water. Water does not have sugar in there unless you buy special water that has sugar in there. So when you look at the amount of sugar there are, you can always look at the food label, the food fact, and it tells you how much sugar there are. And if you're wondering how much calories that is, all you have to do is multiply the gram of sugar times 4, and that's the amount of calorie that's just from sugar. Dietary guidelines for Americans. So there's a set of principles that's developed by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which, remember, this is revised every 5 years. And it's designed to promote health, reduce the risk of chronic diseases, reduce the prevalence of overweight and obesity. And there's key dietary guidelines for Americans, the DGA recommendation. They follow a healthful eating pattern across the lifespan. They limit calories from saturated fat, added sugar, and reduce sodium intake. It's also to increase consumption of nutrient-dense foods that have less calories and more nutrients like vitamins and minerals. And this is to shift to having a more healthful food and beverage intake and support healthful eating patterns for everyone. Americans ages 2 and older tend to have shortfalls with these nutrients. Chronically, continuously, they don't have enough of these nutrients, which is vitamin A, C, D, E, folate. You might even hear of folic acid, which is the synthetic version of it. Calcium is also another one. Iron, especially for girls and women, especially during the reproductive times. Magnesium, fiber, and potassium. Americans tend to overconsume these nutrients, especially ages 2 and older. Saturated fat and sodium. Dietary planning with the USDA food intake patterns. The food group plan. Foods sorted into groups by nutrient content. They specify minimum serving for each group. You can choose a variety of group among the food groups and within each group. Adequate nutrients and phytochemicals. Our book has a really great list of each of the food groups, so it is really important to look through it so you have a better understanding, because a lot of times people get mixed up thinking that egg is in the milk group. They may be near the eggs. The milk and dairy might be near each other, especially when you're shopping, because they need to be refrigerated. But they're not in the same food group. Eggs are in the protein food groups, or sometimes it can be called meat/meat alternative. And milk or dairy is in the milk and milk product groups. So when you look over it, you'll see. And just another thing, bacon is not meat alternative, because when you think of meat alternatives, you think of peas, lentils, beans. Bacon is from an animal. It's an animal product, so it is under meat. Even though meat/meat products or meat alternative might be in the same group. So I just want you to recognize the difference. And sometimes you might see protein foods instead of meat alternative. You want to recognize these different terms. So again, the food groups are fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, dairy, and oils. So let's get to protein, also known as meat alternative. And even though it's under protein, remember, dairy also has protein too. So if I happen to ask you a tricky question, which two food groups have protein? It'll be the protein in the dairy group, or the protein and the milk product group, or the meat alternative in the dairy group, or the meat and meat alternative in the milk and milk product group. So it could be any of those choices too. And as far as protein, bugs are starting to be popular. Cricket powder, candy, and bugs with chocolate on them. So I actually have 3 very interesting videos for you to watch. One of them is Angela Jolie eating bugs. It is so cool, and she kind of describes it. And the reporter is actually interviewing her and even tried the bug and mentioned how good it was. Shark Tank one, Chapal is being interviewed whether he wants to be part of the Shark Tank, if he's going to, get a sponsor for him. And Shark Tank 2, guess who the sponsor is? So I just want you to guess on that. So you can click on these links and they'll go directly to YouTube. How solid fats and added sugar add calories to nutrient-dense foods. So when you think about it, it really matters about what kind of foods you get. Like a regular ground beef patty, if you buy the 75% lean, you are missing 52 calories if you bought one that's not as lean. So you're missing 52 calories of beef fat. And if you had breaded fried chicken strips versus plain, the breaded and frying fat is worth about 108 calories. Frosted cornflakes versus no added sugar. Cornflakes itself is 90 calories and the added sugar is about 57 calories. So if you have both, it'll be about 107 calories total. But if you just have the cornflakes without the sugar, that's about 90 calories. That's a 57 calorie difference. Same thing with French fries. Plain potatoes about 117 calories. And if you fry your potatoes, it's 141 calories more. So a total of 258 calories. Another popular one is whole milk. When I was young, everyone had whole milk. Very few people had skim milk. I remember seeing them. It's like maybe a handful in the refrigerator. But over the years, the obesity issue with children had increased. So the recommendation is to provide children with low fat, such as skim 1%, 2% milk after the age of 2. Just to decrease the amount of milk fat or fat in general for the child. So when you look at it, whole milk itself is 149 calories. 66 calories is from the milk fat versus if you have skim milk, fat-free milk, no fat at all, that's 83 calories. And just to note that why did I mention after the age of, well, really age 2 or over, you can start having skim milk, low-fat milk, is because before the age of 2, the child's brain is still developing and needs the extra fat for the brain development. Daily amounts for each food group. So our food facts are based by the 2,000 calories. So when you look at it, it's really for sedentary women 19 to 25 years old, active women 61 plus, and sedentary men 61 plus. And you can kind of guess which category you are based on your activity level and your age. And so you have an idea where you fall with how much calories you need each day to really optimally survive without gaining weight or losing weight. So when you look at the 2,000 calories, if you need 2,000 calories, then it's about 2 cups of fruits, 2.5 cups of vegetables, 6 ounces of grains, 5.5 ounces of protein-based foods, 3 cups of milk, 6 teaspoons of oil, 80 grams of solid fats, and 30 grams of added sugar. And when you think about it, it's like, oh, I must have everything exactly. No, it's just an estimate. If you have more or less on a particular day and then you have less on another day, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, like, not significantly less, too. So this is usually for the healthy adult. So just to let you guys know, it's usually for the healthy adult. See you soon. And remember to read the book.